So in this session I'm going to carve the bottom of the continuous arm seat. And so I've got my plans out here, and so it's going to be that area right there on the plans. And as you can see here, it's 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom on these outside edges, and then it goes up to the pommel and back down again, so all that gets cut off. You can see the side profile there. And the trickiest part, and those of you that have tried to carve a seat like this know, is right in here on the bottom. And that's really hard to show on the plans, and so you can't really see what I do, but that's one reason for doing these videos. I'll show you exactly what I do right there. Okay, well, let's go to the real seat then and carve that thing. So we got our seat here. It's been carved and scraped, sanded, holes bored for the legs, and now I'm ready to bevel off the bottom. Now I start with the front, so I like to put it upright in the vise, but if you don't have a vise big enough to hold it, then you can clamp it down on the bench right like that and carve it over here. You just got to bend over a little bit, but since I've got a good vise here, I prefer to do it like that. So I'll lock her in the vise now. Alright, so we're set up here. I'm going to bevel off this part. I don't know how far down I come right here, but I know that some of you all would like to know that. So what I'll do is I'll carve it, and then I'll measure it, and I'll be able to tell you how far I come down. I just do it till it looks good. It'll be slightly convex, slightly rolled, so don't get it too flat, and it will go all the way up here to nothing. I'll be doing it with a beveled down draw knife, because there's a slight little concavity this way, and it helps. You could do it with a bevel up knife, but it's just a little bit easier for me to do it with a bevel down knife. So there's the action is this right here. I'm pulling into my body because that's where the strength is, and I've got it skewed, and then I'll be slicing, trying to use a whole lot of the blade there. So be cut right like that. And then here you can reach over as far as it's going to let you cut. So you see the way I'm using that whole knife and pulling into my body. And go right up to the top edge. Okay, now let me go to the other side and get this. Okay, so now I'm going to take a spokeshave that's slightly radiused front to back, because a flat one has trouble getting right in there. And I'll shape that for you. So let's see, I just set this thing up, so we'll see how it cuts. Yeah, pretty good. So I'll be skewing it also. Remember, we're all in grain right here. So you got to have a good skew with it, and I'll be slicing that. So you can see the curls that come off of it show that I've been slicing it and skewing it. So you watch them come off of there, and that's what you ought to be getting because, once again, it's sliced. And let's get this side. Okay, so I've taken it all the way up to the edge, so I have a knife edge here, but this is also the bandsaw edge, and it's kind of rough. So I'll straighten that out, like that. So true that edge up. Okay, so now it's square on there. I'll put the Eris back in it, but I'll make it blunter. So I get a nice sharp edge there for looks, for aesthetics, but it's a little bit stronger than it was because it's a little blunter there. Okay, so there's the front done. Let me get a rule and I'll measure that so I can give you a measurement there so you can. So you'll be able to do it. Let's see what we got right there. So that's 1 3/4 inches. So if you measure an 1 3/4 inches here, an 1 3/4 inches here, and then just put you a straight line across it, and it's got a little slight dip right in there, then you ought to be good. Okay. Now we'll go to the back side. Well, I have to saw it off because I can't do this until I do this and the back. So first thing I got to do is saw this back off on the bandsaw, and then we'll be back to the vise here. So I'm going to bevel off the bottom here, and I've drawn a line in to a 1/2 inch from there, and then this is set for 3/4, where I've drawn it around through there. So I'm going to end up knocking that corner off, and I'm going to connect those two lines at 3/4 and a 1/2 right there. So that'll be the first stage of beveling this off. So I'll be, like I said, connecting that line with that line, straight shot. So it's once again a slice and a skew. So I would continue that all the way around, which I'm not going to do because you get the idea right there. Now I've got 2 flats, and I'm going to make a 3rd flat right here, much like the way that I whittle spindles. Okay. So now I've got 3 flats. All I have to do is knock off the corners, true up that edge, and I've got the round shape that I want. So I'll do that with the spokeshave. Okay. Alright, so I'll just round it over. Now, need a little bit more set on that. Okay, so there we go. I would take that all the way around, and the further you get on around there, the more to get into end grain, which means the more that you've got to skew both the draw knife and the spokeshave. Okay, now for the real deal right here, the most difficult part. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out with the draw knife. It's fast, it's fun, and it's a little tricky. What ends up happening if you don't do it right is you can cut a V right there, and it doesn't look good, and it's hard to get out of it. So I'm going to try to show you how to keep from cutting a V and have fun doing it. So first off, I'm going to give you something to go to. I just end up cutting it, so I don't know how far down I go here. But so I'm going to go to the center of the trough, draw kind of a center line there, and then drop down about 1/2 inch. Now I may go past that line, I may not go to it, I don't know, we'll see. But once you start out there, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to climb up this way first. So I'll be making stop cuts and they'll be running about right like that. If you can see that. I won't be trying to get to this point. In fact, I'll be trying to on purpose leave a little island right there and get rid of all this material in back of the knife so the knife can lay down flat and cut and meet its other side there so you can cut that clean. Now that takes a thin knife. And when I'm talking thin in this plane right here, not thin in this plane right here. So this is less than 1/8 of an inch thick, and you can find old knives like that. And if you put a 28-degree bevel on it, you're going to get a bevel that's about 3/16 long this way or less, and it can get in there in those tight cuts. The thicker the knife, the longer the bevel, and the more the back of that bevel hits against the area you're cutting and pushes the cutting edge off, which creates all of these lines. So anyway, this is the knife that I use for this right here. So let's go ahead and we'll get closer, I think, on this shot, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay. So I'm going to work my way all the way up to the front of the gutter there. You notice I'm slicing also, and I've got my elbows tucked in. So I'm not trying to cut the whole face at once. I'm creating facets where I'm cutting across it. So I've cut everything up to right there, and now I've got a little bit of draw knife area to cut, bandsaw area to cut right there. Don't cut into this top up here. It'll change the shape of the C, which of course you might want to do. But call it a design opportunity if you do that. Okay, that's about all I can do. Now, the other thing I was doing is making sure that I keep that edge, and I keep that edge coming down almost perpendicular or moving a little bit forward with that edge. So you start your draw knife always perpendicular with this plane. You'll have a tendency maybe to want to throw that knife back like that, but that'll ruin that whole edge. So I start out like that, and then you can start moving the knife and slicing it or doing what you want to with it. But start out perpendicular, and that way you'll get that edge looking right like that. Okay? So now I'm going to have to turn around and come back from this side and take out this mess right here. So I'm going to be removing all this material back here, as much of it as I can get removed before I start heading down this way, because like I've said, keep saying, you've got to get the material removed from in back of the knife or it'll force the knife down. You got to get that removed so the knife can lay down as flat as possible and come into that cut flat. So you can see that it's not going to let me cut all the way out through there. I'll have to cut that way, but that's okay. I'll cut what I can. See, it was splitting with me a little bit. So, pay attention. I'm not in any hurry to get down here. I'm removing, just continuing to remove material here and like leaving a little island right there. So now right here I've got that material removed, and that enables me to get that knife flat and come right across that center line. And I went a little deeper because I saw I needed to, and I'll have to come back from this side to get the rest of it out. I still lack a small bit right here. And let's clean this up just the least bit right there. Okay, I'll get on the other side and take this out. Okay, let me just get some of this stuff out of the way so you can see what I'm doing just a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So I'll start right, even though that material's got to be cut out, I want to make sure there's nothing behind the knife forcing it down to force a V, because I've got to go a little bit deeper, which means I've got to remove a little bit more material back here. So you see the way I'm not in any hurry to get there. So now I've got it. I look down here. I like that curve right there. I'll probably go from the other side and just take out that little bit right there, but that's nothing. And then I'll take off this part right here, right now. It's no big deal there. And then whatever I can get to with the spokeshave, but I can't get all the way in there, but you might have one of those little shaves that gets in there. Okay, there we go. There's the bottom of the seat. So we'll see if you can do it.